video so that I won't be in the stream. So do I want to remove spotlight so that everyone is being shown, or do I want to?
I don't remember what spotlight.
Yeah, I think spotlight means that when someone is speaking.
Talking.
Huh?
I think it's going to highlight who is talking at the time.
Okay. Or do you, okay, so do you want everyone to be this visible on the screen, or only the person who's, I think it looks better if we're all kind of visible, even if we're, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Because we're having a conversation.
Yeah. Right. True. All right. So.
Daddy, you're going to go viral. Because you're in my video. And is this right at the top? Is that right?
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Conversation. I'm so glad that you guys are here with us this morning. We're gonna have a great time in the Lord. Do us a big favor and share this live. I'm super excited about it, and I'm believing God is gonna bless us in this moment of conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, grab something to drink, and join us in this moment of conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to Pastor Net, and you guys can take it forward from here.
Good morning. So we're going to start out by introducing ourselves. I am, of course, Pastor Net. I am the assistant pastor at the Mission Life Church.
Hello, everybody. My name is Monique Barnes, and I am here.
Good morning, everyone. Sophia Ellard, admin at Mission Life Church. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So everybody have their drink. I am drinking actually juice because it's almost 12 o'clock. So I don't have coffee. I have juice. What do you guys have?
I have Royal Farms coffee, gourmet blend. I was going to do Colombian, but I was going to be like, let's just take it calm. They have a new way to disperse it now. You press the button. Technology is crazy, but it's good.
Oh, wow. What about you?
Always
Coffee?
tea. Always tea.
Yeah,
coffee, always tea.
Yeah, I'm more of a tea person than I am coffee. But lately I've been doing like 1 cup every morning. So, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm excited about this topic. We are going to have a discussion talking about the sermon that was preached on last Sunday by, I think her name is Pastor Tawanda Prelo. And the topic was, Lord, remember me. Lord, remember me. And it came from 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. So we're going to start out. I'm going to ask the question, which part of the sermon touched you the most? Either one of you can answer. And I have to get my charger.
I think what I remember, it's funny because I was actually traveling on the road and still wanted to make sure that I didn't miss the word, but my sister and I were actually listening, and the part that really jumped out to both of us was talking about women when we're in an empty place and when we're in a dry situation, you know, and things that we're going through when we feel unproductive. you know, and
Mhm.
people. But that even in those situations, you know, that's the time when we, you know, really, you know, need for God to remember us, and He does when we're in those situations. So
Right.
that part really spoke volumes to both of us.
Okay.
I believe that I was just taken to a place when she started to speak of anxiety and depression, because I think that that's a battle that is very prominent in a lot of us women, no matter what age you are, and trying to battle with that and trust in the Lord and remember that you are remembered by Him. I don't know. It was a great reminder. If I must say, it was just a good reminder to see her speak on such a thing that I personally feel, but then I could just see in the room and hear in the room how we all, as women, really have to battle that depression or anxiety, and we have to remember that it's not our battle, and that it is something that we can get over. Because I know that I'm not depressed anymore. Me personally, Monique Barnes. You know what I'm saying? And so to be remembered by God, it just kind of struck a fire inside of me. I was glad to hear that and to be like, wow, I'm really not feeling in that space anymore. So that was
Right. Yeah, I know this past year I've ran into so many people who suffer with anxiety and depression for various reasons. And I think that this sermon, you know, it touched a lot of people that are, you know, battling with anxiety and depression. Um, do you think that Mother's Day reminds mothers of the complexity of life? Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but she did make mention of that you know, Mother's Day can be good, and then it can be kind of
complex.
stressful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's, you know, you're a mother 365 days out of the year, right? But
Mm-hmm.
On Mother's Day, it's the time that it's really highlighted. It's the day that it's celebrated. Even though you're
Right.
doing your mothering every day of the year. You know, this is the day
Right.
that will be set aside for you, you know, to be honored, to reflect on being a mother, you know. And, you know,
Right.
sometimes, you know, there are things, you know, people will take us out for dinner, or, you know, they'll, you know, somebody might say, well, let me do something for the kids so you can just have a moment for yourself, you know, even though your children are the reason why you are a mother. So it doesn't stop just because it's the day that you're honored. Like the things
Right.
that as mothers don't go away. If anything, that moment is kind of intensified because it makes us reflect on the fact that we're mothering children, or that we're nurturing people, or that, you know, we may be missing a mother, or we may be missing a child.
Right.
All those things are wrapped into one, and it's highlighted on that day.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that society has really pumped up Mother's Day. I remember doing a sermon on it, so I did some research, and it was just saying, I mean, the amount of money that's spent on Mother's Day it was just crazy. It blew me out the water. And so I do think, you know, no matter what day it is, we're being honored, but we still are mothers, have to do our job. And that goes with anything.
Yep.
I do want to go back to the part of the sermon that touched me the most was when she actually was being provoked. And that kind of touched me because she didn't say anything. You know, she went through it, and you know, didn't say anything about her clapping back at them or anything. It's just that, you know, she was so humble, and you know, she just went through it until, you know, she got to the point where she couldn't take it anymore, and she went before the Lord. So that part, that really touched me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because like we could be going through something, and we could be, you know, struggling in silence, and people
Mm-hmm.
don't really know what we're going through. And then there will
Mm-hmm.
be people who will antagonize the situation. And we could have
Mm-hmm.
the whole time just saying, I'm going to bear this burden and not worry about it. but the moment that pushes us is when someone decides to antagonize us,
Right.
provokes
Right.
us to a place where now it's like I've been going through this and people know that I'm going through it, but now that you said something, you've kind of shined the spotlight on it. And so
Right.
you provoked me to a place where now I feel like you've uncovered that vulnerability or that lack that I'm feeling in me, and now I need to act on it.
Right. It's kind of like being bullied.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sister
I think-
Monique.
What was I about to say? Speaking up is very, very, very important. I say that because I can attest to that now that I am older. I didn't always open my mouth when I first came to Mission Life. I didn't open my mouth. I didn't say what was wrong with me. I just was singing. And then I had to open my mouth and tell Pastor what is going on with me. And that created a space for change.
Right.
Forever since I opened my mouth to Pastor and said what I'm going through. So he
Right.
could open a space for prayer for me, open a space for me to feel like I can get over it. So that part really touched me. You have to open your mouth. Do not suffer alone, especially us women, because we're so strong and because we're mothers. You know, I'm not a mother, but I'm a teacher. So I'm a mother to a lot of children.
Right.
And that weight, we have to put the weight somewhere. We have to put it somewhere and allow good people and good things and good spirits to help us change for the great.
Right. I agree. I totally agree with that. But do you think that, I mean, you can't go to just anybody. You have to seek wise counsel, because everybody is not going to understand where you are, and everybody's not going to give you godly advice for one. So you have to make sure that you seek godly wisdom, especially when you're in a state such as that.
Yeah, using that discernment, just like she was saying, it can be used and then people can antagonize you. If you go to the wrong person, that person can antagonize you. But if you go to the right people and you follow the spirit, then there's room for change.
Right. Right. I agree. Anybody want to add anything else to that? So growing up, and Sister Monique, you just talked about it a little bit. Growing up, were you ever in a situation where you were put down by people who you thought that really had your back, or who you looked up on, and how did you handle it, and what was the outcome?
Absolutely. College was I was learning to trust the right people, not trust the right people. I pledged all these different things. And I didn't handle it properly then. I acted very emotionally. And sometimes you just have to and again, if I would have maybe reached out to some people, I would have been able to maybe less emotionally react to what is happening around me. Because being emotional all the time is not the best. Yes, our emotions are important, but how am I going to express myself when I feel anxious or angry and stuff like that? So I think that back then I did not have that, but now I definitely have a better understanding of how to handle when I am possibly being mistreated or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. What about those people who, like Hannah, who she was being antagonized by, the woman Panana, who thought, she had something up on her. What about those people? And then look what happened. I mean, if you go through the chapter and you read further, you see where we all know what happened, when she cried out to the Lord. And then after that, she was blessed with the son. So how do you feel about that?
I think it's hard too, because when you're looking at certain people in a position. So for her, we're talking about two wives and one who seems to be in a position of, so much favor because, everything about her situation looked great and she wanted, her own situation to change. And it's hard too, because you start to devalue yourself. You start to
Right.
feel like you don't have that self-worth.
Right.
And it's hard, but I think as believers and people of faith, we have to realize who our worth is tied to, you know,
Right.
that it's not tied to the material, you know, sometimes the tangible, the things that you see, you know, because we know that we serve a God that's bigger than any situation.
Right.
So we have to remember who we are in God. And so he remembers us. And if we remember that he remembers us, we remember that whatever situation that we're in is temporary, you know,
Right.
and
Amen.
that if we continue to trust and believe and come to him, you know, to guide us, that, you know, we know how to kind of be steadfast and wait on the Lord, because his timing is perfect, you know.
Right.
You know, if we try to rush God's timing or want it to go on our own time, it's generally not going to come, you know, to the fruition to that, you know, expected end. But when we're waiting on the Lord, then his timing is perfect. Because if God had have even granted what she wanted then, you know, the end of the story, the outcome could have been different. But
Right.
because of God's timing, you know, we have to trust him enough to know that we're valuable to him. And so
Right.
that our work is not tied to what we see, but to
Right.
him.
Right. Because our timing is definitely not like God's timing.
Mhm. I think we should just trust the process. That's very important. And just, you know, simply saying, mind the business that pays you. Mind your business, because her blessing is her blessing. My blessing is my blessing. And we cannot, I know it's hard sometimes because I'm young. I've felt myself being jealous or envious of somebody having a house before I have a house, having a car that's nicer than that's not where I am. I must trust my process. That'll make you feel better about yourself if you trust your process. You're
Process.
their lane. That's their blessing. That's what they have going on. And if you do the work, you can have the same or better if you do the work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Trusting them
Absolutely.
and minding
You
your
can't-
business and not worrying so much, because that's a lot of wasted energy. Worrying about Pernell, you know, no, I'm not going to worry about Susie and Ann and Bianca.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. Because it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for you. I mean, but it's only going to happen for you if it's God's will.
Absolutely.
You know, certain things that other people have is not meant for us to have.
You, right?
So we just have to make sure that we stay and we ask God for his will.
Absolutely.
Why do you think Hannah's life was miserable besides the fact that she was barren?
Maybe
I think, yeah.
on those things that were not what you, when you focus on that, your life will be there, I think. But when you focus on other things, because I remember when I used to not be as grateful and I just, you know, complaining, I don't have this, I don't have that. And so that was my life. It's not my life anymore because I'm looking at it differently. You got to look at it differently. If you look at your life as barren and not just your stomach, and you look at your life as barren, then you will feel that way. You will act that way. You will walk that way.
Right. Sister Sophia, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, I agree with Sister Monique. It's like, it's your outlook, because
right.
if you look at this one situation and make it your whole life, you know, so we don't really know a lot that was going on with her, but we know that this was her situation, that she was barren and that she couldn't, you know, have a child. But being barren, sometimes that state of mind, that place of feeling unproductive, like if that doesn't work, if something else doesn't work, then you feel like, this is my life. Like everything that I touch is unproductive. I'm going to fail at this. I can't do this. So now I won't be successful in another area. And so start to claim this thing over your life. And so now you've caused yourself to become miserable. Instead of saying, whatsoever my lot, I'm going to be joyful and give God the glory, because I know that this is a temporary situation. But sometimes a temporary situation feels like forever to us when we're going through. When is this ever going to end? When is this ever going to change? And so then we change our whole outlook, our whole perspective now is changed based on the situation. So sometimes we can make ourselves miserable just
Right.
because we're not having the right mindset, which is hard when you see everyone else around you doing what
Right.
seems like you can't do.
Uh-huh.
Right. And we have to make sure that we're equipped, because not only she had two different things going on. One, her husband had another wife, and he was saying that, why are you like that? I mean, you have everything. I mean, I give you more than I give her. And he thought that she should have been okay with that. And so not only was she being antagonized by the other wife, but she was being antagonized basically by her husband. So we just have to make sure that, it just seems like when one thing happens, something else happens, or one person come at you, then the other person comes at you. But we just have to make sure that, God has us.
Mm-hmm. And that also speaks to the fact that he, as a man, or even as a person who felt like he was, because he cared for her, because he loved her, and he gave her a double portion, even though, she wasn't able to have a child. Like, that just goes on to prove that if we're missing something, if we have a void, there's not something physical that you can give to a person to make that void go away. That's you're not going to be able to buy away. It's something that there's no amount of money or anything that you can give me that is going to fill that void and take that away from me, because what I need comes from the source. If I'm not plugged into the source, it doesn't matter what you try to give me, it's not going to take away that void.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, those tangible things mean nothing. Do you believe that what we say or do can push a person to a breaking point?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
That's why
they break my bones, but words never hurt me is a lie. I don't know who said that. I don't know who said that. They hurt. Words hurt. Words power. Just like, any words have power. The Bible says it. Okay. Words have power. That is why it is important to make sure you assert your best self and say the things that you want to be said to you. Just like we were just talking about, your mindset. If you say these things, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, then that is how you live. Other people doing that to you, oh, that affects your mindset. Your self-esteem.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Words are important. That is why it is important. Affirm yourself and others. It is very important.
Very important.
Break down. Some people who have suicide or anything, or just sadness or confusion, it is because sometimes they are listening to what other people are saying.
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
And we know that life and death are in the power of the tongue. If it wasn't the truth, it wouldn't be said in the word, right? So sometimes you can be in a situation like you can know something about somebody and they may do something to, anger you, right? You know something about that person that could cut off their very life source. Like, you could say something to them that would do more damage than you laying a hand to them, right? Because the power of your words can cut, just like the power of your words can affirm and raise someone to a very low place. So it just, even like, to share a moment of transparency for myself, when you were talking about, when we were young, did we have people who we thought should, have our back? When I was growing up, I had, I dealt with issues of self-esteem because, and I don't think they did it to be malicious, but just sometimes, families, the way we are, we just, people say things and they don't know the far-reaching effects of what they say. So, I had, family members that, called me tar baby and, things like that. And to me, those don't have positive connotations attached to them. So it didn't feel good. So, it really made me feel some kind of way about myself growing up, and even having, relationships with friends, or growing up and just, all types of things, even in relationships, I always had to touch back to that place where I didn't feel like I was beautiful, or I was pretty, because that stuff stuck to me,
Yeah.
as a child, the men in my family and things like that. Like, I don't have any doubt that they loved me, but the word they spoke to me didn't make me feel good about myself.
Right.
So I had to try to, and I thank God for God, because very early on, I knew that God was real. I knew that he was present in my life.
Right.
So when I felt like my family wasn't the place that I could go to for that, that safety and that covering, I knew I could go to God. So I spent a
Right.
lot of, just like, I used to sleep with my Bible under my pillow when I was a little girl, because I needed my mind to be protected. I didn't feel, I didn't feel secure, and I didn't
Right.
blame my family, but I just knew that I needed God to keep me, and keep my mind, so that I wouldn't have those thoughts. And I did. And that's why I started to do it, because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel valued. And so I would think a lot of times, like, my family would be better off without me, because that's how I felt. But I knew that that couldn't be the way it was supposed to be. So I needed to lean on God even more. So I was like, I need you to protect my mind, because the thoughts, I shouldn't be feeling this way, and I didn't blame them, but I just wanted to be better in myself and be, be in a better place. So words are everything. When we talk to our children, sometimes when I see younger women and I know they're stressed out and just the things of life, but when I see how that they're taking that stress or that situation with the child's father or whatever it is, just the stress of life, and they're taking that out on the child, and you're not going to be any good, you're not this, you're not that, like, you are speaking into this child's destiny.
Right.
And you need to be very careful about how you talk to your children, to yourself. If you didn't have that, you don't know how to give it to somebody else. So, I mean, words are very important.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it just ruffles my feathers to hear parents talk down to children, because you don't know how that's going to affect them way down the line.
Mm-hmm.
As a teacher, I can see how it affects them, because I'm with them most of the day. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And they react to me.
Right.
They're very, you know what I mean? It just seems like their feathers are ruffled early in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody at home or something is at home is off. And so we really need to be affirming and being more positive to our children, to raise upstanding adults that know how to have good self-esteem about themselves,
Right.
Now I got to teach myself. I'm 28 and I got to teach myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that I could handle my emotions and have better self-esteem about myself. Because a lot of women, because of the media, we have a lot of self-esteem about our bodies. And my kid, all of that, and so affirming yourself and knowing that you're beautiful at home and knowing how to address situations at home, all of that is very, very important.
Right. Okay, I have a couple more questions. Do you think that it's possible to really be successful when feeling empty? Do you think that there are prominent people that seem to have it all together, but really there's a void? And do you think that it will last?
So when you talk about success, I feel like, so media mainstream society tells us that success is how much money you make, right?
Right.
And so people are trying to achieve when they talk about success. So like when I think about success, and I think about when I talk to my children, I tell them that success is truly happiness. Like you have to figure out what you want to do in life. And it also, of course, it's attached to who we are in Christ. But even outside of that, you have to be happy. Like I am, I have children and some have gone to college, some have not. That does not determine your level of success to me. If you want to jump on the back of a garbage truck, if you want to be a master plumber, a master electrician, like there are things like, what is it that you want to do? What is your passion? I feel like if you're living inside of your passion and the will of God, that is the ultimate determinant of success. It's not the money you make, because we know there are people who make millions of dollars. And if the rug is pulled out from under them, or they don't, the next day, I mean, they spiral. If
Right.
if your life is connected and attached to that money, when it's up, you're up, and when it's down, you're down. That's not success. That's not
Right.
success. And so you're chasing, it's like a dog chasing its tail. Because where are you happy? Where's your happiness in all of this? And people will sacrifice their happiness to achieve this, mirror of what success is supposed to be about. And
Right.
success is determined by you as an individual. And if you're happy in what you're doing, no one can take that from you. They can take the money from you, but they can't take the success of just knowing that you're a good person, you work hard, whatever it is that you want to do to make yourself happy. I think that defines success. And the people who are walking around, looking like they've got it all together, it's a mask, because
Right.
none of us have it all together. None of
Right.
us.
Right.
None of
And you see
you know,
people on TV who, I mean, we've heard of people who've actually, you look at them and you think they have it all, and then next thing you know, they've committed suicide.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's no foundation. There's no
Right.
basis of hope. If someone can pull something from under you, and, if you lose your house tomorrow, if you have a Christ that you serve, a Christ that is a restorer, you can't be tied to the tangible thing that you might lose. I know
Right.
it doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good, but hope springs eternal. Hope never leaves you if you have it. You know
Right.
that God will give you back the thing that you lost, and so I just, I feel like people who let that go, they don't have that foundation. They
Right.
they have tied themselves to that tangible thing, that house, that car, that money, that job, that title, that prestige. It meant more to them than anything else. They placed it in such a high esteem that once it's taken away, there's just a shell. They don't know who they are without it. And if you don't know who you are without those things, then you have a problem.
And then too, I mean, everything could be okay financially, but there's still a void. There's still something going on the inside. So you
Absolutely.
can't always, judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, and I'd like to use my rest her soul, Whitney Houston. She, was this image, and she was empty, and that is why things went very, very downhill. Yes, she could sing, and she was beautiful. She was smart. All of these things, but there was a void. She was the greatest. She literally redid a song, and it made millions. But that void inside of her and that sadness took over, and it
Right.
just went on. It just,
Right.
what?
Yep.
That started to affect her. You can have it all. She had money, lots of it.
All of that.
But she lost her faith. She lost her way. She lost herself in her marriage, in drugs, in the music industry, in Clay, or Calvin, whatever his name was. That was her manager, producer. She lost herself in all of that, trying to, be here. And I feel like, she still would have been alive and with us if whenever that moment was, that she could have really focused on herself and had more faith in herself, and not whatever that void was. If she could have fixed or healed that piece, went down that road of drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
She forgot to tap into the source.
Right.
So yeah, really good example of something like that.
Because you can get lost in all of that. You can get lost in all of that. The money, the fame, the success, all of that. You can get lost in all of that, and it's a distraction. And if you forget to tap into the source, when the enemy starts to come in, if you are not tapped in and reconnected, you can, you lose it all. It all just goes.
Right.
Fill that void, put in God, and it can be drugs or a person or anything.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So in closing, I have one last question. What do you say to someone who seems to be crying out for acceptance from society? Someone who may not be strong enough to cry out to the Lord? And how can you convince them that trouble don't last always?
That's a good one.
Say it one more time, please.
What do you say to someone who seems to be crying out for acceptance from society? Someone who may not be strong enough to cry out to the Lord? And how can you convince them that trouble don't last always?
So I would say to that, when someone that's, someone is not strong enough to go or doesn't know how to go to the Lord for themselves, go to the Lord for them. That's one thing, because maybe they don't know, and maybe they need to be, shown how to. So maybe you want to pray with them. Maybe you want to go to the Lord for them on their behalf. But also maybe there's a level of vulnerability in you where you can share, your testimony or your walk or something that you've been through, to say, this is where I was. This is something that I dealt with that I didn't know that I was going to be able to come through it, but I did, and this is how I did it,
Right.
Because I think, we should be examples, and if we have a testimony, then we should share it. And it's
Right.
hard because, transparency, vulnerability, those things kind of keep us, from sharing with people. But the best way is to kind of say, look at me. I'm
Yeah.
an example of what Christ has brought me from. And I
Right.
know for a fact that I didn't do it by myself. And you don't have to do it by yourself, because you have a God who remembers you. And even
Right.
when it feels like he's not there, he's always there. You just have to know how to tap into it. And I'm willing to help you do that. Let
Right.
me, that's the best thing that I can say to someone, because I don't want to sound, because someone will look at you and say, well, you look like you got it, and you talk this way, and not always.
Right.
The person that you see today isn't the person from maybe just a few years ago,
My Lord. Yes.
And so look at me, but just know that if he did what he did for me and some of the things that I've seen and been through, he can absolutely do it for you.
Yes. 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 I feel the same way. I think our testimony can help to save someone else, and you can do it without poking and prying or belittling them. It's a way that you can go to them in love, especially if they're crying out. And I think today, that's something that we really, really, really need to do. I mean, you don't have to tell it all, but you tell enough to, let them see that it don't always have to be the way that it is. And it won't be, but you got to trust in the Lord.
Right. You got to trust, you got to wait. Because I think the thing that, that touches my heart the most sometimes when I hear about situations of young people who have taken their own life and stuff like that, I always feel like if they could have just waited one more day, you don't know what tomorrow holds,
Right.
And I my heart breaks me, because I'm I know that it was hard, it was tough. I would never, diminish what you were going through, but if you could just hold on one more day, you don't know what tomorrow could hold for you. And in that moment, all you know is that it's too much,
Yes.
instead of knowing that if you hold on one more day, and that, God is bigger than that situation. Whatever you're going through in that moment, if you could hold on just one more day, because what you're going through could also save someone else's life, but hard to think of that when you're in that moment. But just that one more day, one more day, tomorrow could be the day that your life changes forever. But, but we know what the enemy's job is, and so that's the part that I think just breaks my heart every time I hear about it. If they would just one more day,
I feel like, it's really the kids sometimes that we need to focus on sometimes, that we need to get into their heads without prying and poking. I'm a mentor now. And at first I just was going to be a music teacher, but then there were some girls and some certain students. It's just I saw myself in them. And it's I tried to invite them into a space that makes them feel comfortable enough to feel like I can do this one more day. Because, depression rates are getting lower ages and lower ages and lower ages. I didn't start feeling that way until after college. These children are 6, 7, 8, 12, 16 way. And so I think it's very important that we get into their minds and into their hearts and to their souls, and making sure that we do give them our testimony, that we do give them encouragement, and that we don't pry or bash or say encouragement in a judgmental way, because that's something that I found sometimes in the Black community. We want to help, but we'll say it in a certain way. And it's like, I don't think I want your help because of the way that you're talking to me. So I think inviting a good space for them to feel whole, to feel heard, to feel seen, it would change a lot. And we would cut out that rate of those young children feeling suicidal, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, and feeling like they don't want to hold on one more day, because that hurts my heart too, because I know what it feels like to not want to hold on one more day. But
and
I want to know what it feels like to be on the other side of that line. What I mean? So I think that encouraging them and giving them a safe space and giving them our testimony and going to them in love, very important. And just affirming, like we were saying, words matter.
Absolutely.
And loving on them in the best way that we can, and not being judgmental, really change. Very important for anybody. Of course, our young kids, but anybody.
Yeah.
I could help you in any way if we were just to talk and affirm one another. And we are just, you never know. Or the other way around. You instill and put a seed inside of me. That's important.
Yeah.
Right.
It's important to go to people in love, like really genuinely going to people in love, because if you think about it, like Jesus' sacrifice was the ultimate example of love, right? And he didn't turn his back on us when he could have at any moment, and he came and he was in the world with the people who needed his help the most, right? And so when we think about children, some children today have so much trauma. They've seen so much in such a short amount of time. And then they carry that into adulthood.
Yes.
So you have to think about the layers that you have to try to chip away at to reach some people, but you can't do it if you're not doing it in love.
Absolutely.
And to know that you're going to those people, you're not getting anything out of this. It's not for you.
Right.
It's for them, and it's for God's glory. So you have to remember, like, everything you do to lead in love. And sometimes you might get pushback from those people, but you have to understand why it's there, what they're trying to protect. And love chips away all of those layers.
And you have to change your approach. Maybe the first approach didn't work, but then you have to be creative and don't give up, because that moment that you give up, that
can determine everything. Absolutely.
Right. Okay, well, I have enjoyed this. This has been amazing. I thank you too for being a part of this. I thank all that's watching Facebook Live, YouTube. And so we're going to end it now. I don't know if Pastor wants to come back on, but if not, we thank you again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And be blessed. Bye.
Blessed day, everybody. See ya.